Today, I'll be sharing with you a story about 5 people who do not keep boundaries in their lives. The first person will be Chioma. Chioma is a people pleaser. The second person is Michael. Michael is a perpetual caretaker. The third person is Biodun. Biodun is an oversharer. And then Jessica. Jessica is a workaholic. And the last person is Ahmed. Ahmed is a boundary violator. Welcome to another episode, and I'll be sharing with you the negative impact of lack of boundaries in their lives and in their relationship with people. And if you're one of them, I'll be showing you how emotional intelligence competencies can help you set healthy boundaries with the people that you work with and relate with so that you can live an optimal day-to-day life. But before the story begins, what are boundaries? Boundaries are guidelines and limits that defines how we interact with people. They define what we are willing to accept and how we protect our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Boundaries are crucial in maintaining healthy relationships, promoting self-care, and ensuring that our needs and values are respected. We can keep boundaries with our physical space, and that is based on how much we want people to enter into our space. We can keep boundaries with our communication. That has to do with how we want people to communicate with us, our preferences, and what we consider healthy in communicating with people. We can also keep boundaries with our time and energy, and this has to do with deciding how much time you want to spend in carrying out certain tasks or in being with certain people, and how much energy you want to exert in certain situations of your life. We can also keep boundaries with our values and our belief system. This has to do with the kind of principles that we have chosen to live life with, and ensuring that we are not pushed out of those boundaries because we want to align what we believe with what we do on a daily basis. While boundaries are good, without emotional intelligence, I find out that people would clash with other people because they want to maintain boundaries. We will trample on them, we will push them away, deter them because we have boundaries that they are violating. But with emotional intelligence, we are able to engage people and keep them at bay with our boundaries, or keep ourselves at bay with our boundaries, and we're able to live an optimal life, whether they want to violate it or they want to respect it. So back to the story about the 5 people who don't keep boundaries. And the first person will be Chioma. Chioma is a people pleaser, and people pleasers don't keep boundaries. Chioma would always put other people's need before hers and ensure that everybody is fine even when she's not fine. Chioma sacrifices her own well-being for other people to be happy, and she doesn't have the capacity to say no to people, so she embraces every task that is dropped on her table at work. Chioma fears disappointing people and never wants to be seen as somebody who is not ready to help, and she would constantly go above and beyond in order to please people. However, this is having a negative impact on Chioma's day-to-day life. Chioma is exhausted. She's tired. When she gets home, she's not able to rest well. And even though she's beginning to realize that she needs to start keeping boundaries, it's very difficult for her. And as a result, she's not living the optimal life that she truly wants to live. So are you like Chioma? Can you be vulnerable in the comment section and say, yes, I am like Chioma? The second person is Michael. Michael is a perpetual caretaker. He has an innate need and ability to fix other people's problems, even at the expense of his own well-being. Michael sees himself as a rescuer, and he rescues everyone from their problem, and it doesn't matter to him if it stretches him beyond his limit. He just wants to save everybody. Michael spends a long time listening to people, creating solutions to their problem, advising them even when it is stretching him, and as such, he usually doesn't have time for himself. Michael feels happy when he's constantly solving everybody's problem. The challenge is Michael is now beginning to realize that he's not living optimally. He's always having things hanging in his life about himself, waiting to be done, while he constantly helps others to solve their problems. This constantly leaves Michael feeling drained, without time and energy to live the life that he truly wants to live. Are you like Michael? Be vulnerable and say yes in the comment section. The third person is Biodun. Biodun is an oversharer. Biodun can share any information about his life with people he just met. Biodun does not have a limit about what to share and what not to share. He's ready to tell people everything about him. Biodun opens his emotional state and emotional experience about situations, even with strangers and acquaintances who have no reason to know what is happening with Biodun from an emotional perspective. One of Biodun's greatest challenge is that he feels the urge and the need to connect with people. And somewhere in his subconscious, he thinks that sharing his emotions and sharing his information and issues about life with people would help him connect with them and give him that emotional state of connection that he desires with people. This constant sharing of information from Biodun to other people sometimes deter people from him, because they wonder if he can share information like this from his personal life to them. It means that even if they open up to him, he will be able to share with people. While Biodun wants to attract people by sharing information about him, he's also deterring people because they are not comfortable with it. And those that are comfortable with it, over time, share Biodun's information, and then in turn, they hurt Biodun because Biodun was not expecting that they would share his information. Biodun is an oversharer and is affecting his life. He's not living his optimal life. And then Jessica. Jessica is a workaholic and there are no boundaries. Jessica feels the urge to constantly work and prove herself to everybody around her, to her colleagues and her superior. So she will take mails that don't belong to her and treat them. She will take calls even at odd hours, and she's ready to jump on her laptop to solve somebody's problem even in the middle of the night. Jessica feels good when she receives your call in the middle of the night because she believes that you will be wondering, wow, that she works very hard. There are no limits to her work life. She just wants to continuously prove that she can work very hard and she can gain results. While this is good for results, it is impacting negatively on Jessica's life. Jessica is stretched. She's tired. She's constantly pumping adrenaline and cortisol. She's not resting, and that is not optimal. Yet, she keeps working. And the last person is Ahmed. Ahmed is a boundary violator. First of all, Ahmed does not have boundaries and is ready to violate everybody's boundaries. He doesn't listen. He doesn't know that people have boundaries in their lives. He keeps crossing people's lines without regard for their comfort and their consent. He would constantly ask for intimate details about people's life. And even when they give him cues, non-verbal cues that they don't want it, they're not comfortable, Ahmed is not aware. At work, Ahmed would disregard protocols. He would take glory for other people's work without even thinking that he's supposed to acknowledge them in the course of work. And despite the continuous feedback to Ahmed that he needs to respect boundaries, he doesn't understand, and now it is beginning to strain his relationship with people. Ahmed does not have boundaries and he doesn't respect other people's boundaries. Are you one of these 5 people? Go to the comment section and just be vulnerable for a moment and put it there. Yes, I'm like Ahmed, or I'm like Jessica, or I'm like one of them. If you're one of them, I can imagine that you're experiencing burnout, and this is where you are exhausted about work. You wake up in the morning and there's no energy. You start a task and you're already feeling within you that you are tired. And this is affecting you physically, emotionally, and mentally. As a result of this, your productivity would reduce because you're not prioritizing, you're not choosing, there's no scale of preference, there's no structure in your day-to-day life. You take on anything that comes to you, you neglect things that are important because you're oversharing yourself. There's no structure. This will begin to affect your productivity and you will see your productivity reducing. You know the terrible part of this? Other people's productivity will be increasing because you're sharing yourself and yours would reduce. And this will stop you from achieving your goals. And that means you are not achieving set goals for yourself. That's not the kind of life that you want to live. My advice to any of you who live a life that is without boundaries like this would be to begin to practice emotional intelligence. The first thing to always do is to be aware. So I want you to go and sit down with yourself. Just go sit down and ask yourself, do I keep boundaries? Which of them am I? Am I an oversharer? Am I a perpetual caretaker? Am I a workaholic? Am I a people pleaser? Or am I a boundary violator? You need to be able to identify where you are. There is no transformation without awareness. The major emotional intelligence competence that would help you to put boundaries in your day-to-day life and begin to live the kind of life that you truly want to live is intrinsic motivation. And the very first component is clarity of values and priorities in your life. What are your values in life? What values do you hold dear to yourself that would make you drive your day-to-day life? Is it promptness? Is it efficiency? Is it personal growth? Is it commitment? Is it accountability? Is it communication? Is it interdependence? Is it wealth? Is it friendship? Is it collaboration? What are your values as a person? And what are your priorities? You should have priorities in your life. You can't wake up every day and you really don't have priorities in your life. What is most important in your day-to-day life? What is the second most important thing in your day-to-day life? What is the least important thing in your day-to-day life? When you wake up in the morning, what sets you on fire? What keeps you going? What motivates you? It is important for you to understand your values, because values help you to drive yourself from within rather than to drive yourself from the outside. When you constantly drive yourself from things that are happening around you, you will not have boundaries. But when you constantly drive yourself from the things that are happening within you, from your values and your belief system and your own priorities in your life, you will then begin to learn and begin to identify what are the things you can accept and the things that you cannot accept from people. What are your values? The second component of intrinsic motivation will be self-determination. You need to take ownership of your own decisions. You need to be determined to make decisions for yourself, about yourself, rather than waiting for other people to make decisions for you by pressing on you. You need to be able to sit down with everything you're doing and say, did I make that decision by myself? Or did I make that decision to please other people? You should be able to tell yourself that what I'm doing right now is what I actually want to do. I am not doing to please anybody. I am not doing it because I don't want people to feel disappointed about me. I am not doing it because I want people to be happy with me. I am doing it because this is what I want to be doing at this time. And I decide by myself from within me that this is what I want to do. Self-determination is something that has to begin to grow within you. And every time you follow a decision that you did not make for yourself, that you did not really agree to from within your heart, take a pause and say to yourself, that is not my decision. And at that time, you can stop that, because you need to increase your self-determination. Wake up daily with choices in front of you and decide how you will spend each and every day with different people you would meet in the course of the day. To improve your intrinsic motivation, another important skill that you would need is assertiveness. You need to be able to stand your ground without trampling on people and without allowing people to trample on you, especially this latter one. People don't have to make decisions for you and push you against your wish. And that means you need to have the capacity to say no. You can't continue to say yes to everything and live an optimal life. In fact, the more yes you say in your day-to-day life, the more we have that indicator that you don't have self-determination and you don't make your own decisions. Learn how to say no. Say, I wish I could, but I'm sorry, it is not good for me now. Look at them sometime in the eye and say, no, I'm not going to do that. There's something else that I would prefer to do. And while you will not feel comfortable to do it the very first time, say no to somebody the first time and your brain will receive the signal. Say no to somebody the second time and your brain will receive the signal. We call it neuroplasticity. And all of a sudden, your brain will begin to develop the capacity to say no when it is needed. Assertiveness is a skill you want to read about and begin to practice in your day-to-day life if you want to have boundaries, because people will come to you with everything. And a lot of times, you need to say no. The next most important intrinsic motivation skill that you need would be resilience. resilience, the capacity to bounce back or bounce forward. It means that you need the capacity of staying there when you create a boundary and say, I don't like people coming into this space. People will try to push. People will repeat it over and over and over again. When you tell people, I don't like it when you yell on me, people will try it again and again. When you tell someone, I'm not going to be able to do that task, they will come back with it. When you tell someone, I'm sorry, I cannot lend you that money, they would push onto you, and you need resilience. You want to imagine what resilience is? A beautiful metaphor for resilience will be the tennis ball. When you hit the tennis ball on the wall, it comes back to you. When you throw it on a thick surface, it comes back to you. And what does that mean? When people push at you, you come back to yourself and say, no, that's not what I want to do. When people press on you, you come back to yourself and say, no, that's not what I want to do. And then you choose what you want to do. They will keep pressing on you, and you keep coming back to yourself and keep coming back to yourself. The more you do that, the more you grow your resilience skill, and you will have the staying power to keep boundaries. You would not push onto people. You would not yell on people. You would not fight with people. You just keep being resilient with yourself and say no with a smile and say, I wish, but I can't with a smile, and just keep doing that and engaging. And sometimes you call them and sit them down and say, you've tried 3 to 4 times to make me do this, and I communicated with you that I don't want to do it. Why do you keep pushing? Don't you understand that I'm not ready to do it? Can you please respect the fact that I don't want to do it? Now you're communicating, you're resilient, you've got assertiveness, you've got self-determination, and as you practice all of these, you'll begin to keep healthy boundaries. The next emotional intelligence competency that you would need is consequential thinking. Begin to think of the consequence of what you want to do before you do it. And that requires you to take a pause and ask yourself, what is the cost and benefit of what I want to do right now? This thing that somebody is asking of me, what will it cost me and what is the benefit? If the cost always outweighs the benefit, then it's important for you not to take that task. So constantly weighing the cost and the benefits of the actions you're about to take would help you see the action and the results and the impact on your life before you even take on the action. And then you can use your resilience and self-determination and decision making to answer a yes or a no to that situation. Consequential thinking is a tool that you must bring to bear if you want to set boundaries. And the last one is self-reflection. You need to constantly reflect on a day-to-day basis, and do this in the evening when you get home and reflect on it. Was I able to manage my boundaries today? Did I achieve the goal I set in the morning? Was I able to tick all my to-do list? Was I able to say no the way I really wanted to say no? Did someone press on me to do something that I don't want to do? You just reflect. Don't reflect to beat yourself. Reflect to be aware of the strength that you are gaining and what you need to do better. And the more you continue this self-reflection, the more you begin to choose the things that you need to do the next day. And as you practice this, you'll begin to realize that you are beginning to keep boundaries. And the people around you would also begin to realize that, he doesn't want this anymore. He wouldn't take that from me. And then they'll begin to choose how to relate with you. You don't need to fight with anybody. You don't need to quarrel with anybody. You just constantly need to be assertive with the boundaries that you're keeping and constantly communicate with them. And if there's somebody out there like a boundary violator who is not ready to manage your own boundaries, then you can close the door to them. Sometimes it's okay to push people away from your life because their toxicity is more than your competence, and the ability to identify that my competence is not enough for the toxicity of this person is self-awareness enough for you to be able to choose yourself. And that is consequential thinking, knowing that if I continue to relate to this person, their toxicity will beat me. And then you begin to make the choice of pushing them away from your life or pushing yourself away from them if that is the case. Now you're making choices. You would live a more healthier life. Listen, the people that don't want to be in your life, let them go, because your boundaries are beautiful enough for you. Now let me close with this. Sometimes your boundaries are not even good for you because they are not boundaries. Rather than boundaries, you are hiding from yourself. You are hiding from the world. You are hiding behind your own shadows. You are not able to relate with people naturally. Rather than learn to relate with people, you are keeping boundaries of relating, and that is costing you relationships. Rather than going out there and have some fun so that you can have some endorphin and have some dopamine into your life and enjoy yourself with good quality of life, you lock yourself inside because you're not able to stay within people. You need to find the thin line between boundaries and personal weaknesses. So be sure that it is not about your personal weaknesses, your inability to do things that would help your life, that's making you keep boundaries. Be sure that there are boundaries that will help you to grow a fulfilling life. When you begin to live your life like this, your life would be better than it is now. And you would look at every day and know that you're living the life that you truly want to live. This is how emotional intelligence would help you to live the life that you truly want to live. So go out there and set good and healthy boundaries and begin to live your life.